Victor Ellison knew the stare before it even landed on him. It was sharp, polished with a fake smile, the kind that only flickered across the lips but never reached the eyes. As he stepped into the gleaming restaurant with his wife Delphine and daughter Malia, the air seemed to shift. Conversations dipped, heads turned, and though no one said a word, the message was loud: "You don't belong here." The hostess, draped in a silky uniform, greeted them with a tone so sweet it left a bitter aftertaste. "Welcome. Do you have a reservation?" she asked, already assuming the answer. Victor nodded, stating his name with quiet dignity. Her fingers hesitated over the reservation book as if surprised to find them listed. Malia clutched her father's arm. She noticed it too, the slight raise of an eyebrow, the twitch of a smirk from another staff member by the bar. This was supposed to be a celebration. She had worked tirelessly to earn her scholarship, and tonight was meant to be hers. But now, the glow in her chest dimmed as they were led through a maze of half-empty tables, past gleaming windows with city views, and seated at a small, wobbly table near the kitchen doors. The clatter of dishes and bursts of heat from the swinging doors felt like deliberate insults. Delphine sat with her chin held high, but Victor caught the flicker of disappointment in her eyes. A waiter approached, not with menus, but with a tray already loaded with water glasses, 2 of which were chipped. Malia's voice was barely above a whisper. "Dad, we can leave. Let's go somewhere else." But Victor's calm was unsettling. He leaned back, eyes scanning the room, lips forming a soft smile. "Let them play their hand, Malia. Some lessons are best learned in silence." Their orders were taken half-heartedly. When Victor requested a small adjustment to his dish, the waiter's smile tightened. "We don't do custom requests. Kitchen's quite busy tonight," he said, though the restaurant was visibly quiet. Delphine's polite thank you was met with a disinterested shrug. The whispers started soon after. From a nearby table of young professionals, muffled laughter carried toward them. One of them, a man in a tailored suit, muttered loud enough for Malia to hear, "Probably here to apply for kitchen staff." Her fingers curled into fists beneath the tablecloth. Every slight was like a needle, and Malia was starting to bleed from all the little cuts. "Why are we sitting through this, Dad? They're humiliating us." Victor's gaze was steady, his tone still gentle. "Because sometimes, patience is louder than pride." Delphine, though poised, placed her hand over Victor's, giving it a firm squeeze. "Not for too long, Victor." At that moment, a young waiter, different from the others, approached hesitantly. His name tag read Elliot, and unlike his colleagues, his face carried an edge of nervous recognition. "Mr. Ellison," he said under his breath, I know who you are. I tried to tell them." Victor gave him a warm smile. "Thank you, Elliot. No need to stir the pot just yet." Elliot's eyes flickered between Victor and the oblivious manager across the room. He left reluctantly, while the rest of the staff continued their charade of condescension. The main course arrived. Victor's plate, of course, had the wrong order. Delphine's drink had been forgotten. The manager walked by their table with a dismissive glance, choosing to fuss over a wealthy white couple at the center of the room instead. Victor reached into his pocket and placed a small, elegant business card on the table. Malia picked it up, reading the fine print. Her eyes widened as she realized what it meant. But Victor said nothing. He simply smiled. Because the game was far from over. Victor had always believed that dignity was louder when it didn't shout. But tonight, his patience was turning into a quiet storm. Malia sat rigid, her fork untouched on her plate. The noise from the kitchen doors felt harsher now, like a cruel reminder of where the restaurant believed they belonged. Delphine, graceful as ever, dabbed at her lips with a napkin, though she hadn't taken a single bite. The staff avoided their table with surgical precision, pretending not to see the black family tucked away in the corner, a family they thought would eventually get the hint and leave. But Victor didn't leave. Elliot, the young waiter with anxious eyes, kept glancing their way. His attempts to speak with the manager were brushed off, each time with a wave of the hand, as though his concern was a nuisance. Across the room, the same man in the tailored suit, the one who had mocked them earlier, raised his glass in their direction and said to his companions, "Everyone wants to play rich until the bill arrives." Laughter followed, slicing through the air like sharp glass. Malia's eyes welled up, but she blinked them back, forcing her chin up. "Dad, why do they think we are beneath them? We didn't even do anything." Victor looked at her, his voice low but firm. "Because they judge shadows, not people. They see the color, not the person wearing it. But we'll teach them tonight. Without raising our voice." Moments later, a hush swept through the restaurant. The front door opened, and in walked a man with a presence that shifted the air. Mr. Russo, the owner himself. He was a man known for his charm, but tonight, his face twisted in confusion as he scanned the room. His eyes found Elliot, who quickly whispered something in his ear. Russo's expression froze. Then, slowly, his gaze turned to Victor's table. He paused, swallowed, and made his way across the floor. The conversations dimmed. Forks and knives clinked to a stop. When Mr. Russo reached the table, the tension was suffocating. His voice, though wrapped in professional calm, was laced with panic. "Mr. Ellison, I'm honored. If only I had known you were here, we would have." Victor smiled, that same calm, disarming smile that now felt sharper than a blade. "It's funny, Mr. Russo. I had a reservation. Your team knew I was here. They just didn't know who I was." The staff nearby paled. The manager, who had ignored them all evening, took a step back, his mouth hanging open. Mr. Russo's face shifted from polite to mortified in a heartbeat. "I apologize," Russo stammered. "We'll correct this immediately. Please, let me show you to a private dining room. On the house." Victor gently placed his hand on the table. "We are fine here, Mr. Russo. This table was good enough for us when you thought we were no one. It's good enough now." The room was silent, except for the sound of the manager's heartbeat thundering in his ears. Russo's throat tightened as he noticed the business card on the table, the fine print glistening under the chandelier lights. Victor Ellison, international culinary critic. Partner, Fine Palette magazine. The weight of what they had done hit the entire room like a falling hammer. Delphine's lips curved into a soft smile, her elegance never faltering. Malia, for the first time that evening, sat straighter, her heart swelling with pride. Victor leaned back, eyes calm, voice softer than a whisper, yet louder than any shout. "The way you treat people when no one's watching is the loudest review you'll ever get, Mr. Russo." Russo, now drenched in sweat, could only nod, powerless in the moment. The staff, once smug and indifferent, scrambled like ants, fumbling over each other to fix the unfixable. But Victor, Delphine, and Malia remained still, teaching a lesson without lifting a single finger. The restaurant had just served itself a meal it couldn't swallow. Elliot stood by, watching the chaos unravel with wide, uneasy eyes. The same servers who had ignored the Ellisons now tripped over themselves, laying out new silverware, refilling glasses, offering compliments that sounded like apologies. But Victor's family accepted none of it. They didn't need their pity-laden service now. Across the room, the suited man, the one who had jeered earlier, sat frozen. His smirk had drained into a grimace. His table had grown quiet, as if the air around them had thickened with shame. He wouldn't look in Victor's direction anymore, though his red ears betrayed his discomfort. Victor noticed, but he didn't react. His lesson wasn't aimed at revenge. The damage had already been done, and now, it was echoing through every corner of the restaurant. Then, something unexpected happened. Malia, bold and poised despite the evening's events, stood up. She walked calmly towards Elliot, who was still rooted near the kitchen, his face a mix of guilt and helplessness. "You were the only one who saw us," she said softly. Elliot's throat bobbed. I tried. They wouldn't listen to me." "I know," Malia nodded. "But you didn't look away. That counts." Victor and Delphine watched as Malia did something neither of them expected. She took out her phone, tapped a few buttons, and within seconds, the entire restaurant received a digital jolt. The notification buzzed through phones, watches, tablets, the headline shining like a spotlight. Ellison family snubbed by Elmer fine dining, a lesson in modern prejudice. Victor had crafted the article weeks ago, waiting for the right time to address the silent discrimination that thrived in upscale places. Tonight, the article found its stage. The room shifted. Patrons who had silently watched now felt their throats tighten, glancing around, wondering if they too would become a line in tomorrow's news. Mr. Russo's phone buzzed in his pocket. He took it out, read the headline, and his face crumbled. His lip trembled as he looked at Victor, but the damage was irreversible. But the Ellisons weren't here to ruin anyone. They had always come with quiet power, not malice. Victor stood, his voice calm. We didn't need a special table. We only wanted the same respect anyone else gets. Delphine, with her timeless grace, added, respect isn't a luxury item, Mr. Russo. It's a basic setting at every table. Elliot's eyes brimmed with something close to gratitude. For the first time that evening, he wasn't the awkward waiter fumbling in a hierarchy that despised him. He was a witness to a change. Victor turned to leave, motioning for his family. But just as they reached the entrance, the same suited man stood up abruptly, his chair scraping loud against the floor. Wait. Victor stopped but didn't turn. The man's voice cracked. I didn't know who you were. I thought you were. Victor finally turned, his eyes piercing, but not unkind. That's the problem. You thought. The man's mouth hung open, words failing him, swallowed by the weight of his own ignorance. With that, Victor and his family walked out of Elmer, heads high, hearts steady. They hadn't shouted. They hadn't begged. They had simply reminded an entire room that decency was never a privilege, and perception was the weakest form of knowledge. Outside, the air felt cooler, cleaner. Malia slipped her hand into her father's. Dad, was that the quiet storm you talked about? Victor smiled, eyes soft. Yes, darling. And it's louder than anything in that restaurant. The following morning, Victor Ellison's phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Emails, calls, texts, some from old friends, many from complete strangers. The article had gone viral overnight, lighting up social media feeds and spilling into morning news segments. The video clip, captured discreetly by a patron who had witnessed the entire scene, showed Victor's composed words and Delphine's grace as they left Elmer. It wasn't the scandalous outrage the media craved. It was dignity that silenced a room. Malia sat by the window, watching reporters gather at the building's entrance. Dad, they're here again. Victor placed his coffee down, his face unreadable. Let them wait. Delphine joined them, her expression a blend of pride and calm. The restaurant sent an apology. Victor arched an eyebrow. An apology to us, or to their reputation? Before Delphine could answer, Malia's tablet buzzed. She read the message and her face lit up. Dad, Elliot, the waiter, he just got promoted. Regional PR manager. The company said they need people who understand fairness. Victor smiled, a quiet satisfaction in his eyes. That's the real victory, Malia. But their day had just begun. By noon, Elmer's corporate headquarters issued a public statement. Not the usual corporate jargon filled with empty regret, but a firm policy overhaul. New diversity training, management changes, and an advisory board, with Victor Ellison at its helm. They couldn't erase what had happened, but they offered Victor the opportunity to shape what would never happen again. Victor didn't answer immediately. He let them sweat. It wasn't about position. It was about principle. Later that evening, Victor and Delphine sat in the garden. Malia played nearby, laughter in her voice. The family wasn't celebrating fame or victory. They were simply living. Delphine glanced at her husband. We didn't raise our voices, Victor. We raised a mirror. Victor leaned back, watching the sunset. Sometimes, people need to see their reflection to realize how ugly their assumptions are. Delphine nodded. And sometimes, they need to see that those they belittle are standing taller than them. That night, the world kept buzzing, but the Ellisons had no need to shout louder. Their silence, their composure, had already done the speaking. The Ellisons had shown the world that dignity, when wrapped in patience and strength, could shift the loudest rooms and disarm the deepest prejudices. As they tucked Malia into bed, she whispered, "Dad, do you think people will change?" Victor kissed her forehead. "Not everyone, my love. But enough to make the next dinner easier for you." And in that small, tender moment, the Ellisons knew they had not fought for applause or revenge. They had fought for tomorrow. Respect should never depend on appearances or assumptions. People's worth is not written on their skin or their clothes. Kindness and dignity reveal strength louder than any voice raised in anger. Those who judge others harshly often learn, too late, that character speaks louder than status. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories that inspire, challenge, and stay with you.